Hello, class. In this video, we're going to keep rendering our house, and we're just going to keep putting color on top of our house here and see how it comes out. I think the next thing I'll do is the brickwork for the chimneys or the stone or whatever you happen to be using. So I'll make a new layer for that and call it brick. And as noted, I like to use like a dark gray for my brick, but you can use what you want. Again, if it's a stone, it might be any number of colors. I call it black brick, but really black brick is not perfectly black, so I'm going to select just a dark gray. And I could go to Photoshop and grab something, but I think I have enough settings for this here. So I'm just going to zoom in. I'm going to use my pen tool again and just start, any one spot. Now, if I want to do like some edge work, which I might want to do for shading and whatnot, I am going to follow this line. I don't necessarily have to, but it's going to give me some flexibility to either change subtle colors for shading or do texturing or things like that. So I am going to follow that line um, in anticipation of who knows what I'm going to do as I go along. So I'll put that here. You can see, you can barely see the CAD work on there from zoomed out, but it is there. When I zoom in, you can see it, which is fine. Um, I really just sort of did a quick job throwing that brick in CAD anyway. It's not ideal. And we'll look at some ways. Actually, we get to close it all the way off there and come up because that little roof in this particular building sort of ends there. So let's see, is this not, I gotta go across to here. And I gotta do this little piece down here. Now again, you can see that bottom right corner, I sort of went a little too low. When you zoom out, you never see it, so don't worry too much about it. That said, if you did ever need to fix anything, you use the white arrow to do that. So you click on the white arrow, and I can click on this point, and then click and hold and move it, and I'll just select that point to move. So that's how you do individual points. And then I'm going to do this the same way. I'm going to do the left side and the right side as two different units. And there we go. So there we go there. And it looks a little dark now. So again, I might just do Control A to select all of that color since it's the only thing on that layer. I'm going to lighten it all a little bit. But what I might then do is I might come back and take like the front face, and one thing I can do is I can lighten that a bit further to give some three-dimensional feel to it. Maybe I made that a little light, but for demonstration purposes, I think that is good. You can run other effects and things on here as well, so we can look to see how that goes. We might come in and just select one. Actually, I can select them all probably. We'll see how this goes. We can go effect. We can do sort of the same thing here. Let's look at this inner glow. I'm going to do something slightly different than in the last video. It's going to be set up the same way. So if I do the edges, it does that. But watch this. I'm going to hit the center button instead, and you can see it sort of lightens the internal part, which is sort of interesting. I think it's too big, so I'm going to make it smaller. Yeah, I actually have to go the other way because I want the bigger number is actually going to shrink the center. That's too big. So let's try 0.5. Just very subtly give some light spots in there as well, just to add some detail. You don't have to do that. I'm just experimenting around, showing you how to use Illustrator. You can also add texture to things because brick has a lot of texture. So you might decide to do things like artistic film grain is going to add just texture to it. A lot of times when you do the Photoshop filters, you either have to use film grain or text anything under texturize. Probably too much, so I'm just going to tone that down just a little bit. Um, yeah, I can highlight it maybe just a little bit and just say okay. You can see it just add a little bit of texture to all of that to make it look a little more like bricks. You can play around with all those things. Like I always say, there's lots of filter, there's lots of effects. In fact, there's lots of tools in both Illustrator and Photoshop. The best way to learn about them is just to play around. So I'm going to leave it like this. Again, the reality, what I would probably do is get a lot more rendering done before I start making minor choices like that, because they all have to relate to each other. But I might start it and then come back to it and edit it later. So for now, I think that is good. And I'll end this video on brick, and we'll come back and keep rendering this house.